Kathy, are you present?
It's muted.
Muted.
Okay.
I'm going to get back to Kathy.
There, present.
There she goes.
Councilman Lees,
Present.
Welcome.
Councilwoman
This
Overby,
service is provided
Here.
by
Councilman Bragman,
Here.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Present. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To
The flag of the
to the
United
flag
United States of
of
America.
America and to the republic for which it
Which it
stands,
stands.
one
One
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
visible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
So this morning, I just want to give a brief update as to where we stand. East Hampton's social distancing is saving lives and protecting our friends, our families, and ourselves. We need to continue being responsible when we're out in public, socially distancing, staying 6 feet or more away from others. And please wear a face covering if you get into a situation where you think you might come in closer contact with others. By being responsible, we've reduced the infection rate in East Hampton. It is second only to Shelter Island in the rate of infection on Long Island, which has really suffered. By comparison, Islip has over 10,000 positive cases that have been diagnosed. By saving ourselves from infection here, we're also protecting our hospital system. Southampton Hospital has been successful at meeting the challenges under COVID so far. They've expanded their capabilities and have not been overwhelmed. The success rate that the medical staff have had there is quite good. I understand as of a press release today from them that only 20% of folks on ventilators have perished, whereas in New York City, that number is close to 80%. This is because our system has not been overwhelmed. This is because our residents and visitors have been practicing social distancing, and we need to continue to do that into the future. This is not going to go away instantly. As we seek ways to reopen safely, we will still need to be conscious about safety protocols, about hygiene, and about face masks. So I urge you all to continue with that. We will get through this, and we'll do so in as quickly as possible. The town has convened a special reopening committee here locally, which includes business leaders, as well as medical involvement, and our local village mayor and village manager. We've convened that meeting and met yesterday for the first time. It was a very fruitful discussion, understanding what the needs of business are in this climate and being able to bring businesses back online in a safe and efficient manner is absolutely crucial to us moving forward. We know that there are a lot of people who are out of work right now. That puts additional stresses on all of us. And, but again, I have to say that we have a very generous community here. People have stepped up. The number of people volunteering is really overwhelming. The food pantries are meeting the demands of extra clients, folks that are finding themselves short on basic staples. And there have been generous donations to date. We will continue to have to fill the coffers of the food pantries moving forward. This problem isn't going to resolve itself overnight, but I'm confident that working together, we're going to get through this and be whole again. So at this point, I think it's also important to understand that whether or not we open our beaches is in question, and how we do that, when we do that. I'm on a special committee that the Suffolk County Executive Steve Ballone has put together with a couple of other supervisors on Long Island and mayors, and we are discussing regularly protocols for how we might go about opening our beaches, how we could have a safe reboot to our economy. These will be critical discussions moving forward. We're going to have the cooperation and patience of both our residents and visitors. And this is an evolving situation. Again, we're going to have to take steps slowly and carefully, methodically to restart our economy, but always paying attention to what the disease is doing. And that requires additional testing. The governor's announced that now local pharmacies will be able to do testing once the tests have been distributed. We've reached out to all the pharmacies within East Hampton to express to them that we're willing partners in putting together a drive-through location once those tests become available here. I was very pleased to see this week that we were able to get an additional drive-through testing location in Southampton Village. And I thank Village Mayor Jesse Warren for helping make that happen. South Fork officials have been lobbying for additional testing out here. Initially, the only testing site on Long Island for Suffolk County was at Stony Brook University Hospital. That was an hour-and-a-half drive each way. Later, we got additional testing capabilities in Riverhead. And again, as more and more tests are available, they're being spread out and distributed to more and more locations. Again, we look forward to cooperating with our local pharmacies and state and local officials to actually get more testing out here. We're going to need to be following this disease's progress and how we're managing it all along the way. And we may have to pull back, become more restrictive if we start seeing a resurgence. Again, right now, our infection rate is fairly low. Some of that's due to just the natural ability to distance here. But as we enter into the warmer weather months, more people will want to come here and take advantage of those same attributes. And we'll have to be managing that very careful going forward. So this is a special town board meeting. We have some business that we need to take care of. It's not a typical scheduled meeting, but we do have and welcome public comment. If anyone has called in, would like to ask questions or state concerns or make comments, we certainly would like to hear from you. Jason, do we have any callers on the line yet?
We have no callers on the line, but the number is at the bottom of the screen and the lines are open.
I also want to just say that this is a difficult and traumatic time for many, but there are also some benefits. And I would say one of the benefits that I would consider is that in this time where we pause, where we pull back, where some of us are not working, we have time to reflect on all of the various blessings that we have. We get to focus on things that we've taken for granted. For some, it would be being able to get a haircut. For me, it's not really that. We have a surrounding here that shows the resilience of nature. It's springtime here. If you step outside, look around, the trees are just starting to bud. Flowers are coming up. Nature is oblivious to our current predicament. And I think, taking a moment to appreciate our surroundings, those blessings that we have, family and friends that maybe we didn't really focus on quite as much before, the ability that we used to have to get together and socialize, that's become a new paradigm now with social distancing. And I think we're all feeling some stress from that. But I think we're also gaining a much greater appreciation for all of those various things in our lives. So I know that as we move through this stage and we eventually beat this disease, that we'll all come away from it having lived through this time with a deeper understanding about our own lives and the value of others. So At this point, Jason, if we don't have any,
Mr.
Calls.
Supervisor, we have one person on the line, and I am getting them ready right now.
great, thank you.
Caller, you are on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for your time. Hello. It's Tom Cusimano, Montauk, longtime
Hi, Tom.
resident. I own and operate a 20-passenger charter boat, the Sea Wife 4 in Montauk. I have a couple of questions.
Yes,
Hello?
please go ahead, Tom. Yes, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah. I'm wondering about the for-hire industry in Montauk. I do realize right now it's non-essential to May 15th, but as far as party boats and charter boats are concerned, the town of East Hampton, the county, and the state, it's been pretty hush-hush, and everybody here is trying to get their boats ready, especially with the May 4th fluke opening, which doesn't look like we're going to be able to participate in unless commercial guys can operate as essential naturally for food, fish, and recreational can, but the for-hire industry hasn't been mentioned in anything I read or seen in print. I wonder, how you could address any of that.
Sure. Having been a charter captain myself for many years, until about 2015, I appreciate the fact that you guys all have a short season, like many of our other businesses here. And currently, under the state guidelines, the governor's executive order, for hire charter is not allowed. We expect at some point those restrictions will be loosened. It's likely that if and when they are, that passengers will be required to wear masks and other protective protocols. I know you have, I think you said you had a boat licensed for 20 passengers. It's likely that occupancies would be reduced on vessels. Again, this is all uncharted territory for all of us, and I think the biggest concern is to not allow this disease to continue to spread, to try and reduce that. So as the economy is rebooted, we will be looking at ways to do that and keep people safe at the same time. Priorities for reopening of businesses are the ones that are deemed to be most essential. And again, this is through the governor's directives, and those that have the least possibility of transmission of the disease. So if you're in close contact on boats, and we know this certainly from cruise ships and whatnot, you're in a contained area close together for half a day at least, and depending on how long the charter's running. So I think extra precautions would certainly have to be put in place if and when that industry is allowed to reopen.
Tom, this is David Leese here.
Yeah.
I've been in contact with Director of DEC, Director of Marine Resources, James Gilmore. Also, I will ask him some more questions and make sure he's aware of your questions, concerns. If you can contact me and with your email address, I will also send you over, as I've been sending out to the Fisheries Advisory Committee, the Ag and Markets guidelines as they come out. So you'll have them first thing. Also, I'll just keep adding you to that list, and I'll make sure the director is aware of your concerns also as he informs the state government of the necessities of your business and your industry.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that Montauk Captain and Boatmen's Association is contacted, and we'll be able to both disperse information to its members as well as contact us to let us know specific concerns or ways you think you might be able to safely operate, that we could push that back up the chain. We appreciate
I appreciate and the whole council there. Yeah, only because I haven't heard anything. I am a member of the MBCA, and I do share emails with the president, the secretary, the other members as well. And as your discussion started with, containment and whatnot, everything I read and see about beaches closed in New York State, we're not seeing that in Montauk. You couldn't get another car at the Lighthouse parking lot over the weekend, especially Saturday when it's a nice day. It looks like this weekend's going to be another beautiful weekend. We need to do something as far as people making U-turns on Napeague Stretch or even further west, as they did on US 1 going down to the Keys, which I have a lot of friends down there, and the containment is pretty good, down there in southern Florida and the Keys. Maybe we should, think along those lines. I don't know. It's just a concern that we have, Montauk full-time residents. Again, I do appreciate all your help and the heads up, and thank you for receiving my phone call.
Thanks, Tom. So clarification, though, on state beaches being closed. What they're referring to is guarded beaches. In other words, swimming areas with lifeguards. Those are closed, but the governor's actually waived any entrance fees for all state parks, and all the state parks are open. In response to day trippers and just a big influx of people trying to crowd into the state parks, several weeks ago, I made my concerns known to both the county executive and to Teresa Santoro, who's the regional person in the governor's office, to let them know that we needed more resources at state parks. And they agreed to put additional staff because they were pretty much on winter hours. They put additional staff, increased overtime, and actually have been sending now state police out on the weekends. The town itself wrote over 177 tickets last Saturday, I guess it was a nice day. It rained Sunday. And the state police also wrote a number of tickets for parking violations primarily. And they've restricted the number of cars that can park within their lots to help with social distancing. This is going to be an ongoing issue, I think, for East Hampton and Montauk, because we are a popular place to be. We've always been a popular place to be in summer. Summer is coming. We already have a number of our second homeowners here. They've been here for several weeks, laying low and social distancing. And, we're going to see more and more interest in coming to enjoy our parklands and our beaches and our waters, as we do every summer. So, finding ways to effectively manage those who want to be here and who are here in a way that continues the protocols of social distancing is obviously going to be a challenge. It's something we're well aware of, and we've taken some preliminary steps in restricting parking. We've instituted our resident parking restrictions and our other beach parking restrictions. We've closed Kirk Park lot in Montauk, which was a free lot for anyone to park in, and there's only a smaller portion of it open near the IGA end, and that's for residents only with resident stickers. We felt that it was important to keep that portion open, particularly since there may be some overflow of parking for the IGA. We want to make sure our residents had places to park to visit the IGA or to use the beach. But again, we're probably going to be limiting the number of spaces available at the parking lots at the beaches, until we really see us coming out of the tunnel on the other end here somewhat. We want to be able to keep the beaches open for people to recreate. At the same time, we can only do that if we can have compliance from the public in terms of social distancing. We're going to have to figure out ways for people to get on and off the beach without coming close to each other. This is going to be a work in progress, but we're very much aware of it. We're going to keep working on it. But I appreciate you calling in, Tom.
I do realize it's a tough task, and you guys are doing a great job. I mean, you can't knock anybody that has a summer home and wants to quarantine on the East End, but maybe just a thought to put something out there to, and basically we need the tourist economy on the East End, but for now, maybe putting something out there on News 12 to, not to write tickets, that's not the point, you know what I mean? Just to tell people, hey, you know what, a day trip going back and forth from Manhattan to Montauk, it's not advised, you know what I mean? Or you know, put it politely, we're not trying to dissuade people from the East End naturally, but we are trying to contain a problem. And, you know, just a public service announcement, if you will. You know, people that have come to their second homes and then go back to Manhattan and then come to their second homes, the back and forth needs to stop. They come here and stay, fine. But, you know, the day trippers right now, I don't believe are necessary just to walk on the beach. There are beautiful beaches all over Long Island, close to their homes. So just a PSA, perhaps. Just a thought.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Tom. And I hope you and your family stay well. Thanks for calling in.
You too. Thank you very much for your time and the council's time. Be well. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Jason, do we have anyone else on the line?
We currently have no other callers on the line.
Okay, if you get another caller come on, if you'll please just let me know. I think we're going to move on at this point to resolutions.
All right, I have resolution 2020-486. It's a budget modification for affordable housing. We're creating a revenue line, CD1-0-42410, rental of property for $15,000, and creating an expense line for repairs of property in $15,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. I just want to add to that by saying that this is property on 114 next to the Triune Baptist Church, which we purchased for affordable housing. The one lot that we've most recently purchased there had a small existing home. And rather than have that demolished at this point, until we get a larger project on the drawing board and moving forward, we'd like to retain that small house and make it available for an affordable rental house. So there are some minor things that need to be done to it in order to get it ready to rent, including some painting and a little bit of plumbing work and whatnot.
Okay, resolution 2020-487 is a notice of default of a contractor for the condominium affordable housing development.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. And this has to do with a unit that is not passing inspection at the affordable housing complex. So we have all in favor, passed and carried. Resolution 488, Safe Routes to School, PBO registration, and this would allow the superintendent of highway, Stephen Lynch, and reasonable local official as project manager to execute the system user agreement for PBO system with the New York State DOT.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. 489 is authorized equipment maintenance agreement with the telephone equipment, and be with Meridian IT Incorporated at a cost of $1,079 per quarter for a total of $7,916.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Jason, do we have any other callers at this time?
We currently have no callers at this time.
Okay. At this point, do board members want to give an update on any of the various things? Sylvia, you want to give us any additional information, or telling the public about our meeting yesterday with the
Sure. So this is a working group with businesses as we try to create some guidelines and some help in opening businesses as we get closer and closer to summer. Right now we have 10 members. We're looking for some additional members in some very specific areas, and we're also reaching out to a health professional to help us make sure that some of the protocols that might be put in place would be able to keep people safe, both employees and those that patronize businesses. So it was, and I thank the supervisor for also being on that Zoom meeting call that we had. I thought it was very helpful, very informative. We've got some really good members who are very respectful of each other, respectful of each other's businesses, respectful of the community, and trying to make sure that everyone stays safe. And we understand that the economy puts food on the table, and we want to make sure that people are able to make a living in a safe and constructive way. We're going to have some guidelines that we're working on, and they're going to help write. So I'm just very pleased with the group, and we're going to keep moving forward. We have another meeting next week.
So that I thought also was a very productive meeting, and I really appreciate all of the business leaders who have volunteered their time to help us best understand what some of the specific challenges are. I know one of the hardest hit businesses, industries out here, really restaurants, bars, and taverns. And it's not likely that we will be able to have indoor dining in the immediate future. And as everyone knows, we have a seasonal economy here, and we really have a pretty short time frame normally under normal conditions in which to really make a business go. Some of these businesses are changing their model to takeout, which helps, but that doesn't help them so much with being able to pay the rents and whatnot that they have. Certainly we would hope that landlords can show as much flexibility at this time with all of their tenants. Some landlords are under the same sort of pressures that their tenants are. But those who maybe have a little flexibility, we'd ask that you try and, help folks out so that we can keep our businesses here, keep them going. We have on our website a list of restaurants that are offering takeout at this time. I think there are 42 different businesses within the town right now. If you have a restaurant business and you see that you're not on that list, please contact us. We'll make sure to include you. We would suggest that if you're tired of cooking at home, that maybe you think about ordering something out and doing a curbside pickup, one of these terrific spots that we all hope will still be there on the other side of this. So consider that as well. We may be in a position where we really have to rethink some of our current zoning regulations as they pertain to businesses on a temporary basis in order to get us back on our feet. That might include rethinking how we do outdoor dining, rethinking about how we use some of the roadways within our downtown areas, particularly in Montauk. Maybe we will have pedestrian zones and eliminate some of the vehicle traffic. And also allow perhaps some more outdoor dining. This is all, under discussion. I think we're going to have to be nimble and flexible, always keeping our eye closely on the disease and monitoring it, our progress against it. That has to be job one, because public health comes first. You can't have a vibrant economy if there's an ongoing public health threat. At the same time, we need to be, again, somewhat flexible, I think, in our thinking. So we're going to continue to pursue that basic question about how we can start to reopen some of our businesses. It's unknown at this time whether or not the governor will extend the pause order, excuse me, which is going to expire on May 15th. It's likely that he will ease some of the restrictions. We've seen the numbers coming down pretty significantly in terms of rate of hospitalizations within Suffolk County. As of the day before yesterday, I think there were only 29 new admissions to hospitals on Long Island. And that's down from, hundreds at the peak. So I think while we're making progress, we have to continue to socially distance, be responsible for your own actions. There may be others who are not. Distance yourself from them. And we certainly hope that we can gain compliance with everyone with these protocols.
I think one of the things that the business group agreed on was that we want to make sure that we don't have a second wave by opening too soon, by being careless when we open, by not looking at social distancing. They want consistency within whatever industry we were talking about, because they feel that the consistency is really going to protect us with resiliency. And I thought that was a good phrase that they talked about. But again, if it's a second wave and we get a second wave towards the end of the summer, this could be devastating to our businesses. So we want to make sure that we are able to take advantage of a peak summer season and not open too quickly and too carelessly. We want to make sure that, again, that people are safe and that we don't, encourage a second wave of this in any way.
Our local business owners, they live here, they have families here, they have kids in the school here. And, I think that was really reflected in the discussion yesterday, that they are here for the long haul, and they understand that we have to be very careful about how we do this. So I think it was really helpful. It was a really good start. I feel very encouraged by that. Obviously, work in progress, and we're going to keep on it. And I have had a number of suggestions and other folks who'd like to be on the committee. We're already at I think 14. It's going to get too unwieldy if we get larger, but we certainly would like to hear from different organizations or groups. I know I got an email from someone today who was hoping that nonprofits would be included in some way. And I also had a request from Surfrider as well. And certainly, we want your input. So feel free to contact us, and we'll certainly share what we're discussing and take your comments under consideration.
I just wanted to add something on this, that when we were talking about forming the committee, I mentioned the importance of getting some kind of medical professional, not necessarily as a member of the committee, but as ultimately, I think we all understand that the decision-making is going to come down to what medical and epidemiological science tells us what to do. And I was listening yesterday to Governor Cuomo, who made it really abundantly clear that when it comes to opening up or loosening restrictions, that he was going to go strictly by what the science tells him, what the infection rates are. And he was emphatic that New York State as a whole, and that would include us, of course, we need that greatly expanded testing so that we really truly know what the rate of infection is. Right now, we're sort of counting the sick, and we have an idea of some numbers, but until we start testing on a broad basis, we can't actually determine the rate of infection. He was very clear that in fact, he even referenced Germany, which has had a much better success at handling COVID than we have for a variety of reasons. But he said they recently opened up, they watched the rate of infection, and within a week, they saw it going up, so they've closed back down again. So I want to just emphasize that yes, we should be planning for businesses to reopen, and it's very, people are hurting, and I understand that, but ultimately the decision-making has got to be on a scientific basis. And I told the board yesterday that I would reach out to someone who is credentialed in the field of public health, and I have, but I haven't gotten permission to mention his name yet, but he indicated that he was interested in helping us, and he's the kind of person that we need, that has the expertise to deal with the numbers and the science and help us.
Well, I think we all agree, Jeff, that having a medical advice with regard to the reopening committee is a really important thing. And we've talked about a number of different people who could serve in that capacity. And again, you're correct when you say that this all has to be keyed to our progress in beating this disease. And I know the governor is taking the approach that science and data are important, and we certainly agree with that approach, and we've said so from day one. Again, I'm looking forward to the ability to have further testing within the town. The governor did put out an antibody testing survey where they randomly tested over 3,000, I think, different people and locations. And based on that initial data, it suggests that Long Island had an infection rate of 14% of the population. And when you look at, 1.48 million, translates to about 248,000 people on Long Island have probably been infected. You look at our numbers, 14% of our population, it's a much higher rate than actual has been tested. So it's certainly something that's concerning. The other aspects of this disease that are concerning is the number of people who are asymptomatic while they are transmitting the disease. It could be somewhere as high as 20%. I think that that's one thing that's concerning. The other concerning thing is because of the limited number of tests, the testing protocol and criteria are so strictly limited that people who are actually sick and presenting some of the symptoms have not been getting tested. One of the criteria was you had to have a cough, fever, and fever. Recent Northwell Health study of all people admitted who had COVID to their hospital system, less than 1/3 of them actually presented fever at the time they were admitted. So even testing, temperature is not necessarily going to be an indication whether or not you have the disease. We're learning more about this disease every single day, and again, it's still a very fluid situation, and we're going to have to continue to adapt and respond in ways that will protect the public health to the greatest degree possible.
One of the things that is important, and I'm not a scientist, of course, is that in order to conquer this disease, to really contain it, they want to make sure that we know how many people are infected so that we can calculate how many people they are infecting. Because in order to stop this, that number has to be down to 1 or less than 1. In other words, when someone is sick, they're immediately isolated and they don't have an opportunity to spread the disease. And that's the only way we're going to actually defeat it. And that's why the social distancing and above all else, that's why the testing is so important, so that we really understand what the true rate is of infection from people who are positive on COVID.
Right,
So
and
we have a long way to go.
And the other aspect is, contact tracing, which is something that the county health department attempted to do early on, but the system was quickly overwhelmed by the number of cases, and there just weren't the resources in place to be able to track, infected people who'd come in contact with everyone. You know, there just wasn't the contact tracing. I know there's a greater effort being put forward to expand contact tracing as well. So these are all tools, but there's no tool more effective right now in stemming this disease than social distancing and wearing face coverings when you're anywhere near other people. So again, we ask, you know, if you're out and about, you can't always anticipate when you might end up being close to someone. If you're walking down the street, I saw people in the village, I may have said this before, walking, one on Newtown Lane, one on Main Street, and they met right at the corner by Eli Tahari, and they were right in each other's faces practically. And, you know, they both, of course, were shocked and jumped back. And, you know, one person was wearing a mask and sadly the other one wasn't, but the one who was protected. So again, you know, we need to employ this one very effective tool we have, stay away from others outside of your households to the greatest degree possible. And if you have to go out for essential items, you know, please be wearing face covering. Think about the you know, high touch areas that you might come in contact with. You need to be washing your hands, protecting yourself, covering your hands with gloves perhaps, but gloves are only good if you don't touch your face while you're wearing the glove, because that defeats the whole purpose. And again, please don't leave your masks and gloves just laying on the ground somewhere. Be responsible and dispose of them properly. You know, I really appreciate everybody's patience. I know this is a very difficult time for everyone. You know, we're cooped up, we're under a lot of stress, maybe unemployed, maybe having concerns about loved ones here or abroad, you know, family members, your elderly parents, whatever it is. You know, everybody's dealing with a lot of stress and heightened anxiety. You know, call up friends and talk to them, see how they're doing. You know, reach out to your family. We have a Zoom dinner again tonight with the kids, which is not, Amy's out in California on lockdown, but she's able to continue working on her PhD. And my son is unemployed and living in his apartment in Brooklyn, where he's been inside for 40 plus days, I think now. I tried to encourage him to come home before this really broke loose, but you know, he wanted to stick it out in his neighborhood. He's a grown man now, and I still have, you know, the parental anxiety. You're only as happy as your least happy child, and so, you know, we're all dealing with that, but you know, try to focus on the positive things. There's some really good things happening. Go out on a sunny day. Look how clear the sky is. It's bluer than I've seen since 9/11. You know, there aren't a lot of jets flying around putting out emissions. There are not a lot of craft. There are very few cars on the road compared to, you know, life before COVID. Los Angeles, I think, got the clean air for any major city award recently. You know, they can see sunlight in Beijing. You know, there's some videos around of wildlife sort of showing up in places they normally wouldn't because there aren't people there to scare them away. You know, there's a lot of things to be thankful for, and even in these dark times. And again, take care of each other. Be kind. We're going to get through this. At this point, are there any other comments from board members before we move on? I'll take a
motion that we go into exec session for CPF and have a personnel matter.
Okay, let me just check with Jason real quick before we go into exec. Jason, do we have any callers on the line?
There are no callers on the line.
Okay. Do I have a second on the exec session?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried. Be well, everyone. Take care.